Review code provided by Koei Tecmo Europe for Nintendad.co.uk. Ayesha is an apothecary whose sister Neo has been missing for some time, thought to be spirited away. When visiting her memorial, she sees her sister briefly, and a mysterious stranger informs her that if she studies alchemy, she may be able to save her before time runs out. Thus, she travels the world to study it and get clues about her sister's disappearance. The major gameplay aspects are synthesis, combat, and time management. Utilizing her skills as an apothecary, Ayesha learns the alchemical practice of synthesis to create items. With ingredients she has gathered or bought, they can be made into attack items, food and healing salves, accessories, and more. The items you synthesize have different quality ranks and attributes, which can lead you to feeding skills into items, to make a different item, to make yet another item, to get a bomb or accessory with the traits and properties you need. As you level up the alchemy skill, you can use different skills to effectively do this, as perks fill and bump each other out. Those skills use points. If you run out, attributes of ingredients will not be put in. Fortunately, before confirming synthesis, you can retry the order of it until you get the aspects you need. Once I became less worried about time and understood my skills, I enjoyed the system. It is also something that cannot be ignored. Residents of towns may request certain items, which is your primary source of income, and memory points. Plus, without proper equipment and items, Ayesha and her friends won't be able to face the challenges near the end of the game. The benefit of creating good items is that you can register them at shops, meaning later you can buy items with the exact qualities you created instead of wasting time and ingredients making them again. This is a turn-based RPG with 2 additional party members. Ayesha cannot use skills, instead relying on her basic attack or items she has crafted, while her companions can use MP for skills. Outside of the basics, there is some positioning, as skills or items have an area of effect, and being behind an enemy means you can land a back attack for additional damage. A support gauge, giving you active commands, builds up as you fight. These allow your members to take special actions on others' turns, such as following up with a back attack or shielding them from harm. These have to be selected quickly, as the game won't wait for you. Party members can have special active commands unique to them. For example, Eurus can protect then counterattack, and Regina can set off a timed bomb. Later in the game, a special gauge builds up which unleashes a very powerful attack. On your journey, you will gather various companions. I found Atelier to be the best by far, as she has an AoE heal skill that can also revive, making her essential for boss fights. The boss fights were the most enjoyable part, where I got to use the combat systems and my items to the fullest. During the main story, there are only 2 or 3 essential ones. While I know there are optional ones mostly in Postgame, I wish they were more evenly dispersed throughout the story. Being an older Atelier game, it has a time limit system. You have 3 years to save your sister. Various things take up time, travelling between locations, gathering, fighting, and alchemy, where I was shocked to find that any item takes at least a day to make. Despite being someone who doesn't like games with time pressure, I found it to be very little of an issue. Though at first I got stuck because it turns out I had to be a certain alchemy level to progress, something the game gives no indication of. I spent almost an entire year of the 3 running around in circles because I couldn't hand in the quest, purely because I failed to spot some mortar in the first area of an abandoned village. In that year, I thought I'd found an important story area, but turns out it's just an extra place with a pretty hard optional boss that one-tapped my team. Even having wasted a lot of time, I was still able to beat the game before the end. With the extra travelling, I was at least adequately item stocked and leveled. In one way, the hands-off approach is nice, but I think this game could have done with firmer goals. I've heard this is something they fixed in following games. I do appreciate that once the goal is reached, if you've time left, you can continue about your business, which is great, as often RPGs won't let you live the reward you achieved. I found myself simply chasing all the cute cutscenes rather than worrying about much else. In order to get into combat or find ingredients, you must explore the world. Exiting locations places you on a world map. Often you'll need to enter, gather ingredients, and fight all the monsters to open up a further path. Once you've done that, you can walk past without entering. When across the map, you can run into travelling salespeople to get items, plus more character scenes depending on who's in your party. Most of the locations are typical, with some caves, but mostly plains and forests. A glass factory, vast salt desert, and homunculus town were some visual highlights. The world can feel a little small, but more locations open up, and if it weren't divided by the world map, it would come across as sizable. Thankfully, you have various workshops around the world, so you aren't needing to make constant round trips. The one you most likely will be at is in the main city of Yerzberg, which has a few different events, like the week-long bazaar that takes place each month, where your friends will have stalls. You can buy items the main store doesn't sell. As you progress and make more friends, more shops will open. Twice a year, contests will show up, in which you display an item to appease the judges. Winning gives you a hefty cash prize, and I easily won the first two with some random gold thing I found who knows when. Exploring and running into cutscenes will give you memory points. When certain stories are finished, you can spend memory points in your diary. These unlock permanent stat bonuses such as attack or HP up. Outside of the main story cutscenes, the game is littered with short slice of life moments involving you, your companions and other members of the cast, such as Cowgirl Nanaka, who you run into on your travels, or helping your witch friend Wilbur pass her exam. Sometimes two different storylines with a character can be playing out at once. Having members in your party and buying from their store build up their friendship level, usually leading to a quest that nets you a reward in case the gift of friendship wasn't enough. With a huge amount of these moments, her main goal often seems to be the last thing on her mind. Once you've completed the game, you can use your clear save to go for New Game Plus, which will keep your current equipment and money, meaning you can save a lot of time and go for much more of the post-game content. However, on the Switch there are no trophies to be found, so there's a bit less incentive. The game also comes with a hard mode which makes both combat and alchemy more difficult, a good choice for returning players. Completing scenes may give you some beautiful 2D art which you can view, and you can also unlock models for the viewer and concept art. In this DX version we have a fast forward feature for battles, world map movement, and some previously seen scenes. Most importantly, the ability to run, all of which I used frequently. The first scene that the game opened up on looked rough, but when I played, it was the last thing on my mind. Generally areas are soft looking with only a couple of standout locations in terms of theming. I knew this series had cute girls as main characters, but I was surprised by just how many cute girls are in this game. The character design is gorgeous, and even some of the boys don't look too bad. Atelier Ayesha taught me that some JRPGs use stock sound effects, as the healing sound is definitely one I've heard in Persona games. The soundtrack is lovely, with boss themes being a big highlight for me. Even if it's not your preference, you can change the songs you hear at every particular point from a huge list of Atelier and other games' soundtracks. There is English and Japanese voice acting, although only important story cutscenes and a smidgen of others are voiced. Even so, having some English voice acting puts the latest games in the series to shame. Performance is pretty good, although in towns and one area there's definitely some slowdown in both handheld and docked. There are frequent loading screens, but for the most part they are quite fast, so it wasn't bothersome. While rare, I had a couple of visual glitches in scenes, one where the camera zoomed so fast past Ayesha the rest turned black, or when Ernie started running on air. The story might be a weak point for some. While the game touches on man-made disasters and a civilization living on the ruins of a much larger one, that actually has little focus in the story. The vast majority of scenes are silly moments with your friends, but for me that kept a smile on my face while playing. It has quite a few endings depending on what you've done or what friend's story you've completed, giving you more motivation to play again. I know there's probably a reason for this, but I felt that Ayesha had a couple of romance possibilities, and I wish there were some endings for that. I beat it in 20 hours, though I think a few hours are missing from that, making it short for an RPG, but there's lots of post-game content that you might not be able to access your first try. It's up to you whether to partake, but it will go a lot longer towards making the purchase a better value for time. My favourite aspect of the gameplay was the combat, but I came around to the time management and alchemy. While some aspects change in later entries, I think this is a pretty good game. As a game I was always interested in playing, I'm glad I wasn't disappointed. I'm now looking forward to playing others in the series. I give Atelier Ayesha the Alchemist of Dusk DX a 7 out of 10. Be sure to check out nintendad.co.uk for reviews of the other two games in the trilogy. You can purchase this separately on the eShop or as part of the trilogy, which only costs slightly more than two of the games. Please be aware that if you buy one off the eShop, you won't be eligible to buy the trilogy pack anymore. Bye!